I can teach you how to bewitch the mind and ensnare the senses. I can tell you how to bottle fame, brew glory, and even put a stopper in death.
Welcome to Snape Chat, the voice of the Snapedom, the podcast where we discuss all things Snape, always. Join us as we dive into the world of the bravest man we ever knew in art, fanfic, meta, and more. Obviously, this is Snapecentric with episode 47, and we're celebrating Alan Rickman's birthday by discussing his breakout role in the movie Diehard. I'm joined by Weiss and Masao as we listen to clips from the movie and chat about Rickman's exceptional performance. Enjoy the show. This is Snapecentric, and I'm here with Weiss.
Hello.
And Masao.
Hi there.
And we're going to talk about the movie Die Hard because it's Alan Rickman's birthday month. Since we pretty much covered all of his Snape roles last year, we're branching out a bit. It's an interesting story about how he got the role for Hans Gruber, and we'll talk about that a bit. Let's start with the clip and go from there. This is from Weiss. Is it from an interview or?
This clip would be from an interview with Christopher Hampton, the author of Les Liaisons Dangereuses, and it was originally on the BBC, I believe BBC Two, about the play.
Here, Alan's Vicomte de Valmont speaks with Lindsay Duncan as the Marquise de Merteuil.
I can see I'm going to have to tell you everything.
Of course you are.
Yeah. Well, my trip to the country to visit my more or less immortal aunt. The fact of the matter is, it's the first step towards the most ambitious plan I've ever undertaken.
Well, go on.
My aunt is not on her own at the moment. She has a young friend staying with her. Madame de Tourvel.
Yes.
She is my class.
You can't be serious.
Why not? To seduce a woman famous for her strict morals, religious fervor, and the happiness of her marriage, what could possibly be more prestigious?
I think there's something very degrading about having a husband for a rival. It's humiliating if you fail, and commonplace if you succeed. Where is he, anyway?
He's presiding over some labyrinthine case in Burgundy, which I'm reliably informed will drag on for months.
I can't believe this. Apart from anything else, she's such a front. Bodice up to her ears in case you might catch a glimpse of a square inch of flesh.
You're right. Clothes don't suit her.
How old is she?
22.
And she's been married?
3 years.
Even if you succeed, you know what?
What?
All you'll get from her is what she gives her husband. I don't think you can hope for any actual pleasure. They never let themselves go, those people. If you ever make her heart beat faster, it won't be love, it'll be fear. Sometimes wonder about you, Vicomte. How can you make such a fool of yourself over a complete non-entity?
Mistake, Anna. You're speaking of the woman I've set my heart on.
For the second clip, Alan is with Juliet Stevenson as Madame de Tourvel.
Your honesty, or otherwise, is not at issue. The point is, surely, that I was weak enough to be persuaded to grant you a favour you should never have obtained. And furthermore, I did so under certain conditions, not a single one of which you have observed. Naturally, I feel you've exploited my good faith.
What can I say to reassure you? How can you be afraid of me when, because I love you, your happiness is far more important than my own? You've made me a better person. You mustn't now undo your handiwork.
I must ask if you're going to leave the room or let me pass.
But why?
Because I find this conversation distressing. I can't seem to make you understand what I mean, and I've no wish to hear what you invariably get round to say.
Very well. I leave you in possession of the field.
Monsieur?
What?
Nothing.
I guess that was like a subtle dig at Margaret Thatcher when he was talking about the person who didn't believe society existed. Because isn't she like quoted as saying there's no such thing as society, only individual men and women or something like that?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And it's not the only thing that Rickman did, which has those subtle digs at Thatcher.
Nice.
So this was wildly successful and it moved from the West End in England to Broadway, where the producer of Die Hard, Joel Silver, saw it and decided that he wanted to cast Rickman as Hans Gruber in Die Hard.
And he didn't want to take it.
No, he didn't. He didn't want to do an action movie.
Yeah, and he didn't want to be a villain.
Oh, was he tired of being villains, maybe?
I think he didn't want to get typecast
Oh,
for his movie career because, like, obviously he'd done TV and stage stuff before, but yeah, he didn't want to do an action movie and he didn't want to play a villain.
and after the play ended, he went to Los Angeles and 2 days later was offered the part. So it was kind of a fast process.
Yeah, really fast. He did end up with like a lot of input on the way the whole villain group in the movie ended up being portrayed because I think one of the things was they were going to put them in like military uniforms. And he said, well, I'm going to look really silly in a military uniform next to all these buff guys. And I think he also wanted Hans Gruber to be wearing a suit to make him look like he was like the boss of the baddies.
Specifically, it was that Gruber does not really get his hands dirty. So why would he be outfitted for actually performing the tasks of the other, quote, terrorists? And that he said specifically in an interview once that Gruber does not get his hands dirty, despite the fact that one of the first things we see him do is shoot someone, really speaks to the idea of what the character would consider getting his hands dirty to be.
Right.
True. In case there are people who haven't actually seen the movie, I understand because I only saw it a few years ago. Some of us are just not into action movies, but this was actually a very good movie and it's worth your time, even if you're not an action movie fan.
I agree with that, yeah. Because I'm not really big on action movies, but this is such a fun movie. Like
Yeah.
all the characters are fun. The bad guys, the good guys, just everybody. It's a good time, I think, watching it.
And I think a part of that comes from the fact that not only do you have Rickman's approach to playing a villain, which is this isn't a villain, this is a person who wants something. You also have the majority of the production team and the people writing and making decisions about this film weren't necessarily viewing it as an action movie, which really meshed well with Rickman's portrayal of Gruber. One of the higher ups on the film has actually described it as being very Shakespearean, and he wanted to do it all in one night because it is like Midsummer Night's Dream.
Yeah.
Background characters have been described as being like the chorus and just playing supporting roles for these main characters as they seek their goal.
The book it was based on, it was like 3 nights, right? But then, yeah, he wanted to change it to one night, like Midsummer Night's Dream, yeah.
So for a theatrical actor like Rickman, who got started in Shakespearean shows like this seems like the ideal action movie to land your part after being in LA for 2 days.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, it sounds like people kind of helped convince him that this was a very unusual thing to be offered a part so quickly. Yeah, should we kind of talk about the beginning of the movie and kind of describe the action as we go through?
Sure.
Okay, John McClane is shown flying into Los Angeles to meet with his, I believe, estranged wife and kids.
Yeah, I think she moved to LA 6 months before the events of the movie.
Yeah, it sounds like, I don't know, they like each other, but she moved for the job and he wasn't so cool with it for some reason.
He wanted to stay a cop in New York and like he was talking about having cases piled up, but I think the events of the movie, he just kind of figured maybe she'd come back, it wouldn't work out or something like that. One of my favorite things is like the beginning of the movie, this guy on the plane with him tells him that he needs to take his shoes off when he gets to his location and like make fists with his toes in the carpet. And that's like such a silly line, but that's why he's barefoot for the entire movie.
Yeah, that's kind of a neat storyline.
Like, I don't mean to get ahead of where we are, but that's one thing I really like about this movie is that there are a lot of little things that have a big payoff later in the movie, and that's very fun.
And we'll talk about it more. I believe we're going to address the movie linearly. But there are some of those little things which would have benefited from not being cut. And I would have watched your whole 3-hour movie if I would have understood what was going on.
Oh, yeah. So anyway, he ends up meeting his wife at her place of work where they're having a Christmas party. This takes place on Christmas Eve.
Yes, very important.
Yeah. And they talk a little bit. There's definitely some tension between the two of them. And then a truck drives up. A couple of people go into the front lobby and shoot the attendant there and take his place. And then you see the truck, the door open, and out come all these people with Alan Rickman in the middle, just looking really suave.
In the tailored suit.
Mm-hmm.
In terms of the entrance, when that truck pulls up, and this is a combination of both the way that he is portraying the character and the cinematography of the film, which just work quite well together. As I mentioned, the directors were not necessarily viewing this as an action movie. It helps when you're all working together like that. Actually, I don't remember which of the filmmakers it is, but they have gone on record in interviews describe Hans Gruber as the protagonist of the film. And he is set up like the protagonist of the film. He is the person who acts first. He has the I want. A hero can really only respond to the protagonist as an antagonist. Their job is to act second and to try to stop them. But Hans Gruber and the group of terrorists are set up as the protagonists. They take first action, and we are kind of rooting for them as a result of that, just the way storytelling works. So when he makes this grand entrance, not only does he take control of the camera and we follow him, he's also in control of the group. He exits in the middle of the group, but everyone falls in line behind him as they turn, even though people were walking in front of him. But all of that is happening in addition to the way that his costume is marking him as different, that he's not carrying anything. But he's not only taking control of the camera, he takes control of the music. The way Ode to Joy is used as the terrorist theme song throughout the piece, and that itself is an homage to Clockwork Orange. As that starts to swell in the backing music, it almost implies that we are supposed to be paying more attention to him throughout the film.
And they actually don't show up in the film till almost 20 minutes in, and then he doesn't talk for another 7 minutes.
Yeah, we got to get through Argyle driving John McClane to the Nakatomi building.
Mm-hmm.
I love Argyle. Apparently he was supposed to be in the movie more, but there was a plot problem as to why some of his scenes were cut, but
Oh, I see.
he's still a lot of fun.
Yeah, he is. Okay, yeah, I'm going to play a clip now where he finally talks after the quote-unquote terrorists enter the Christmas party and start shooting, and there's a lot of panic happening.
Ladies and gentlemen, due to the Nakatomi Corporation's legacy of greed around the globe, they are about to be taught a lesson in the real use of power. You will be witnesses. Now, where is Mr. Takagi? Joseph Yoshinobu Takagi. Born Kyoto, 1937. Family emigrated to San Pedro, California, 1939. Interned Manzanar, 1942 to 43. Scholarship student, University of California, 1955. Law degree, Stanford, 1962. MBA, Harvard, 1970. President Nakatomi Trading. Vice Chairman Nakatomi Investment Group. Enough. And father of 5. I am Takagi. How do you do? It's a pleasure to meet you.
He's so cool in this scene.
Oh yeah.
He kind of walks through the people while he's talking and giving the biography of Mr. Takagi.
He stalks through them. He's hunting. The posture that he has while doing it speaks itself. He's also immediately justifying why he didn't have to carry something. He doesn't need to bring a weapon with him. His mind is his weapon. He has all of this research stored away until he can find that one thing that's going to make this man step forward.
And then it's once Takagi reveals himself, he smiles like, "Oh, it's pleasant to meet you," and looks down almost like he's gonna extend his hand for a handshake. At least that's what I saw in it.
Yeah, I think so as well. I was just thinking about the fact that apparently George Takei was supposed to play Takagi, and his agent messed it up somehow
Oh no.
that he didn't get to play him, unfortunately. But, that was just an interesting little fact that I learned when I was kind of looking up facts about the movie. That would have been interesting, but also it's not a big role. I mean, he's not in the movie for very long.
No. But yeah, George Takei would have been really cool.
Oh yeah, for sure. Maybe too cool though.
That's true. That might have taken people out of the movie too much.
Yeah. I thought it was interesting because I mentioned this movie is based on a book, and the book was actually a sequel to a book that was made into a movie that starred Frank Sinatra.
Oh, really? Oh.
And they were offering Frank Sinatra the role of John McClane before anyone else, and he was just like, well, I guess if you want me doing an action movie on a rascal scooter.
Oh.
Because he was in his 70s at the time, so...
Mm-hmm.
So they changed the plot a little bit, and they aged down the main character and went through several people before they got to Bruce Willis. But in the book, it was not a Japanese company. I'm not really sure why they decided to go with that. Maybe because the Japanese economy was kind of booming at the time and companies were coming over to America in the 80s. I thought that was an interesting little thing.
Yeah, it sounded like there was concern about Japan buying up America or something like that.
Yeah.
I sort of remember hearing allusions to that.
Well, and there was like a big deal when Nintendo bought a baseball team in the early 90s or whatever. I remember that being a whole ordeal.
Uh-huh.
It would have been around the time when Radio City Music Hall was purchased by a Japanese company. It was the height of the Japanese companies are buying up American landmarks, which is why they have the recreation of Frank Lloyd Wright's Falling Water in the Nakatomi buildings where they're having the party. That is a recreation of a Frank Lloyd Wright sculpture. There's also an actual model that Frank Lloyd Wright made, which is used in the boardroom.
The bridge, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because apparently, was it Joel Silver that was a big Frank Lloyd Wright fan, or was it somebody else who worked on the movie?
I don't know.
I don't remember. I'm sorry. I know somebody was really into him, and I think like there's an acronym somewhere in the movie that's like FLW.
Oh.
There was quite a bit of homage to Frank Lloyd Wright.
I do think it was Silver because he owned 2 Frank Lloyd Wright estates.
Wow.
At the time.
Oh.
That's very cool. Frank Lloyd Wright, like, wasn't he was really influential on Japanese architecture too, so that's another interesting little thing.
Yeah, there's a lot of compliments in there architecturally.
Nice. I'm just gonna continue on from there while he deals with Mr. Takagi.
Nice suit. John Phillips, London. I have 2 myself.
Rumor has it Arafat buys his there.
On the left, a sinistra, cazzo, c'è l'angolo, dai.
And when Alexander saw the breadth of his domain, he wept, for there were no more worlds to conquer. Benefits of a classical education. Oh, that's beautiful. I always enjoyed to make models when I was a boy. The exactness, the attention to every conceivable detail. It's beautiful.
Is this what this is all about? Our project in Indonesia? Contrary to what you people may think, you're going to develop that region, not exploit it.
I believe you. I read the article in Forbes. Mr. Takagi, I could talk about industrialization and men's fashions all day, but I'm afraid work must intrude, and my associate here has some questions for you. Sort of fill-in-the-blanks questions, actually.
I don't have that code. You broke in here to access our computer? Any information you could get when they wake up in Tokyo in the morning, they'll change it. You won't be able to blackmail our executives, threaten our profit.
Sit down.
Mr. Takagi, I'm really not interested in your computer. But I need the code key because I am interested in the $640 million in negotiable bearer bonds that you have locked in your vault. And the computer controls the vault.
You want money? What kind of terrorists are you?
Who said we were terrorists? The code, please.
It's useless to you. There are 7 safeguards on our vault, and the code key is only one of them. You'll never get it open.
Then there's no reason not to tell it to us. It's a very nice suit, Mr. Takagi. To be ashamed to ruin it. I'm going to count to 3. There will not be a 4. Give me the code. 1, 2, 3.
I don't know it. I'm telling you. Get on the jet to Tokyo and ask the chairman. I'm telling you, you're just gonna have to kill me.
Okay. We do it the hard way. Tony, see if you can dispose of that. Carl, you better go and check on Heinrich's work up on the machine floor.
The way he smiles at him after he says nice suit is, I don't remember him ever smiling that way before. It's kind of a oily something.
Yeah.
The elevator and walking through the boardroom, talking about his suits, his classical education, it's all just so arrogant, and it almost tells you that Hans is currently just playing the game.
Yeah, that's true until they get to what they want him for, which is the code for the computer system. Or was it for the actual vault?
I think for the vault, but I was just thinking, like, one of the interesting things about that scene was, like, apparently Alan Rickman had been studying, like, German dialects and things like that, and one of the ways that it comes out is when he says that he enjoyed making models. Apparently that's actually, like, a common thing that German people will say in English because that's the way German works. I read about that last night, and I thought that was interesting.
Yeah, there's a few lines that aren't read directly as they are in the script, because if you're going to use German, you might as well use the interesting ways that it conjugates when you translate it.
Yeah.
Interesting.
And I think that is really interesting because different people with a different first language have, like, particular quirks in English. And I think that maybe is even more important than doing an accent well, like doing a German accent well is to bring over that artifact of like German grammar.
I seem to recall that he said something along the lines of, you only see Germans in media saying things like Achtung or schnell, you know. So he was kind of gratified to see a little bit more of that.
One thing I didn't know, Bruce Willis, born in Germany.
Oh.
Yeah. Maybe one of the only actors in this movie who was born in Germany.
Oh, I'm sure.
Which is kind of additionally funny when you take into consideration that when they cast Bruce Willis as McClane, that was the moment where they kind of went, okay, so all of the terrorists need to look like European models. Because he's an everyman. He's an
Right.
American everyman.
Yes. And you can see the way that Rickman uses his hands while he's talking to Takagi, threatening him, basically. He takes the silencer off his gun, sets them both down. His hand sort of hovers over it, and then he picks it back up while he's counting to 3. And then after the guy says, oh, you'll have to kill me, well, he does it like, okay.
Mm-hmm.
Which is kind of a shock, I think, when you're watching it.
Yeah.
Well, he starts out establishing Hans as, like I said, playing the game. So he's going through the motions of the executive boardroom game. This is a deviation from that. So he sets up to make you surprised, despite the fact that we've seen them kill people before. We know that they have guns, but he seems like he's going to be the civilized terrorist.
And then he shows how ruthless he really is.
Not only that he is, every step of the actions he is taking are part of a larger mind game with the rest of the hostages. That silencer coming off didn't have to happen. That was so you could hear it downstairs. And there is one other thing in the scene with Mr. Takagi that I absolutely love about this movie, and every time it's come up in the Rick Maniac review I have commented on, is that I desperately wanted a Diehard prequel, not a Diehard sequel, in which you see Hans Ocean's movie assembling his team.
Oh.
Because why are these people friends?
Yeah. It does feel like very much like an Ocean's 11 situation, their heist.
Yeah, we're just watching it from the other direction.
Right.
Yeah. So Bruce Willis basically has witnessed the shooting. He didn't see Hans, though.
And that will be very important.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
So then Hans goes back down to talk to the hostages, and here we go for another clip.
I wanted this to be professional, efficient, adult, cooperative, not a lot to ask. Alas, your Mr. Takagi did not see it that way, so he won't be joining us for the rest of his life. See, we can go any way you want us. You can walk out of here or be carried out. But have no illusions. We are in charge. So, decide now, each of you. And please remember, we have left nothing to chance.
I guess we did miss part of the action before this. Bruce Willis confronts a terrorist, and they have a knockdown, drag-out fight, including falling down the stairs where the terrorist's neck is broken.
And he tries to take his shoes and they don't fit, which, again, very important that Bruce Willis be barefoot through this whole movie.
Right.
And because we were talking about the book earlier, it's different in the book. In the book, he just doesn't want to wear a dead man's shoes.
Oh, he breaks his neck on purpose in the book too, and in the movie it's an accident or a consequence.
In the film, it's also running completely contrast to Hans. If we're treating Hans and McClane as two sides of a coin, which they functionally are, Hans kills very deliberately and on purpose, and McClane kills accidentally the first time.
That's true.
And he's just sent the dead terrorist down in the elevator in a Santa hat with some writing on his shirt that we will hear now.
Get them back! Knock them out!
Now I have a machine gun. Ho, ho, ho.
The way he reads that is just so cool.
Yes. You could hear like his cadence that he uses for Snape come out there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
A little fun fact, I wear a shirt that I made like this one every year on December 24th.
Nice.
While watching Die Hard.
I did feel like this is like the most German looking of the thieves with you know, with the sweatsuit and everything like that.
Mm-hmm. The designer sweatsuit.
Yes.
It's just a little more precise than what you'd see in America, I guess.
They're serious about those sweatsuits.
I have a quote here about eating the sandwich, if I'm allowed to share it.
Oh, please do.
So this is the kind of thing that you see in a lot of Rickman's films, like these little decisions that don't really have anything to do with the plot, and they have more to do with, well, the set looks like this, I'm going to utilize it. So in an interview, Rickman once commented about the buffet table. I said, I think I should sit down and eat a chicken sandwich. It's there. I'm hungry. Yes, Hans is about to kill people, but he doesn't think about that. That requires no thought. What requires thought is, will I have the chicken or the shrimp? That's the kind of thing that the director was letting the actors do on this film. And Bonnie Bedelia, who plays Polly Gennaro / McLean, commented once that Rickman being on the set meant that he was constantly asking why of things that more experienced film actors weren't questioning. So a lot of people on the set were then making these kinds of like, why am I doing this? Why am I not doing this? Judgments.
That's interesting. I think I remember that they got to be friends while filming this together, Bonnie Bedelia and Alan Rickman. That is interesting, though, that he's taking the set into consideration and interacting with it in a way that maybe other people don't necessarily think about. Like, I admire that because I think, that's something I strive to do when I'm drawing, is think of the background as like its own character that interacts with the human characters. So that really appeals to me.
Yeah, that's also neat about Dastardly Lemon Drops.
Thanks, I try.
Going back to his theater background and how he was kind of invited to audition for this role because of Les Liaisons, when you have a theatrical set, you're normally not going to have extra pieces. The set is dressed to a very specific end goal. And it's a lot easier to keep in mind, here's exactly where this is, and then you have this office building where there's going to be things just to make it look realistic. And I think that's when you start to lose track of interacting with those sorts of things. Whereas if you're coming from a purely theatrical background, it's more natural to go, well, it's there. I can use it.
Oh, that's so true. Interesting.
It makes me want to go back and watch some of the other movies that he's been in and see if he's doing things like that.
I don't recall if there's more on this clip, so I'm just gonna play the rest of it.
A security guard we missed.
Usually tired of policemen growing fat on a pension. No, this is something else.
Was habe ich dir gesagt? Was habe ich dir gesagt? Ich will, dass es keiner sieht.
Haltet sie zurück. Ich sage es zum letzten Mal.
We have to do something, Hans.
Yes, we do. We have to tell Carl his brother is dead. Tell him to come down.
Carl, komm sofort runter.
Marco, you and Fritz take the body upstairs and out of sight. I don't want the hostages to think too much.
It's while they're discussing this in the elevator, Bruce Willis is actually on top of the cage and making notes of how many terrorists there are and their names. So he has Hans and Carl.
Yeah.
He's making note of everything that's happening, and he's got a Sharpie, or as I like to call it, a Sharpay.
And that again runs him in direct contrast to Hans, who we saw in the first scene when he was seeking out Takagi, that he's got all this information stored in his head.
Yeah, true. Let's just see what's else on here.
Blood, you'll have it. But let Heinrich plant the detonators and Theo prepare the vault. After we call the police, they'll waste hours trying to negotiate, and then you can tear the building apart looking for this man. But until then, we do not alter the plan.
And if he alters it.
Okay, that last bit was Hans talking to Carl, whose brother has been killed. It's just interesting how he tries to calm Carl down.
That is also a prime example of some good old-fashioned Rickman eyebrow acting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's also interesting how he's taking the police and eventually the FBI coming into account when he's made his plan.
Yeah, definitely. This whole thing has been planned out meticulously. In the meantime, Bruce Willis has been basically running around in an unfinished floor of the building.
Fun thing about that, this building was actually owned by Fox, and it was actually unfinished. So that's not like a set. That's really what the state of the building was.
I guess they did dress it also a little bit more
Oh
to
yeah,
look like a jungle.
and add the Frank Lloyd Wright stuff and but the under construction parts were genuinely under construction.
And because filming ran long, they had some issues with the tenants that were supposed to be moving in.
Uh, yeah, because it was owned by Fox, but there were all sorts of offices that they were renting.
Yeah, because I think they were really limited on what floors they were allowed to use, which is, a lot of the action happens on the 30th floor where the party is. It also happens to be where the vault is, and then a few other floors because a lot of them were occupied.
I didn't realize the vault was on the same floor, I guess.
It seems like such a strange place for a vault to me. They're
Right.
normally heavy.
You'd think it'd be in the basement or something.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, we build the building around the vault.
Yeah. And it's also where we have our parties. We gotta have our parties where the vault is.
One of the ideas, sorry, I'm going back to Frank Lloyd Wright, much like the director of the film.
Oh, please do.
One of the things that they had in mind for that recreated Frank Lloyd Wright sculpture, Falling Water, was that it's almost altruistic of the company. They bought up this famous sculpture, but then they put it in a place where anyone visiting the company could see it. It's not in the vault. It's where they have their Christmas party.
Right. Which is also where Bonnie Bedelia's character's offices, where Hans holds court.
With her very fancy gold wallpaper.
Yeah. Yeah, it's definitely, I don't know, the 80s were like, there's no success like excess.
I love the aesthetic, though.
Uh-huh. That's true. It's really, a lot was thought was put into set dressing.
For sure.
Or production design.
The office itself, in addition to taking into consideration these harsh angles that they needed to build up the psychological effect that they wanted for the shots and the excess of the 80s, they were also drawing inspiration from Frank Lloyd Wright and Imperial Japanese architecture. The harsh angles being that there are only a couple of round things in the film, the vault being one of them.
And I feel like that, they really want to drive that excess home by, wasn't it Ellis who is doing cocaine like one of the first times you see him?
Yeah.
I've been led to believe that that was just the 80s.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, like that's the image of the successful 80s business person is just doing some cocaine openly in the office.
Yeah. It was much more expensive than apparently.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was limited to more successful or moneyed people. So when he killed the first terrorist, he got a bag he was carrying, including a machine gun and what else?
This was the bag with the C4, I think.
Oh, okay.
Or was that somebody?
That might have been later.
Yeah. It definitely had a lighter in it, though, that he ends up using in the...
Yeah, and some cigs.
Yes.
Cigarettes, yeah.
I believe Tony is Carl's brother's name. I believe he was carrying the detonators specifically.
Okay.
Oh, okay. And, okay, this is when Hans goes back down to the hostages.
All of you relax. This is a matter of inconvenient timing, that's all. Police action was inevitable. And as it happens, necessary. So let them fumble about outside and stay calm. This is simply the beginning. I thought I told all of you I want radio silence until further...
I'm very sorry, Hans. I didn't get that message. Maybe you should have put it on the bulletin board. I figured since I waxed Tony and Marco and his friend here, I figured you and Carl and Franco might be a little lonely, so I wanted to give you a call.
How does he know so much about this?
This is very kind of you. I assume you are our mysterious party crasher. You are most troublesome for a security guard.
Sorry, Hans, wrong guess. Would you like to go for double jeopardy where the scores can really change? These are very bad for you.
Who are you, then?
Just the fly in the ointment, Hans. The monkey in the wrench. The pain in the ass.
Check on all the others. Don't use the radio. See if he's lying about Marco and find out if anyone else is missing. Mr. Mystery Guest. Are you still there?
Yeah, I'm still here. Unless you want to open the front door for me.
No, I'm afraid not. But you have me at a loss. You know my name, but who are you? Just another American who saw too many movies as a child? Another orphan of a bankrupt culture who thinks he's John Wayne, Rambo, Marshall Dillon?
I was always kind of partial to Roy Rogers, actually. I really like those sequin shirts.
Do you really think you have a chance against us, Mr. Cowboy?
Yippee-ki-yay, motherfucker.
So, yeah, the other thing that McClane got was a radio.
Yeah. So he could talk to Hans and the gang.
I love how Hans just takes it all in stride that this other person is, just the way he speaks with him is so interesting.
Yeah, when the other guy's like, how did he know? He's like, he's shushing him. He wants to keep it cool and professional.
Yeah.
I was reading that they wanted him to say yippee-ki-yay, and Bruce Willis is like, no, that's not right. It's yippee-ki-yay. And they had him do it both ways.
Uh-huh.
And I was just like, I don't know, as much as I've heard people say that, I don't actually know, like, what that's from originally.
It's a song. I'm not going to sing it because I can't sing, but...
I'm an old cowhand from the Rio Grande by Roy Rogers.
Okay.
That one, 1943.
It's yippee-ki-yay, get along, little doggies. It's your misfortune and none of my own. Something will be your new home. I'll have to look it up afterwards, I guess. I don't know.
I think it might actually predate 1943. I think you'll find it in Rhythm on the Range with Bing Crosby in the 1930s.
Okay.
Wow.
Hey, I'm not sure if there's anything else on here, so let me just read the rest.
Everybody, you forget
Sam,
a remote.
I don't have the new pages. Where's the
Harvey,
Gladden
keep your
report?
pants on, will you? Sam, look, I'm begging you. Simon's already had a remote thing with that Santa sing-along. I'll tell him to swing by or something. I'm not sitting on this. I don't want to hear it. This is my story. I am going out there. Sam, all right, look, Sam, I tell you what. You don't want to give me a truck? I'll go and I'll steal a truck.
Hey, give us a break, Thornburg.
Eat it, Harvey.
4, 3, 2, 1. Harvey, we're on the air.
That does kind of show that's the press getting involved. They hear the report on the radio, and the intrepid reporter wants to get a van to the scene, and he's got a scoop. So, yeah. But the media is sort of played as comic relief in this movie.
Yeah.
The media, in addition to the higher-ups in the police and the FBI, serve in that chorus role. Particularly, the media showing up after the cowboy comments that Hans is making was kind of direct in that action movies at the time were being negatively compared to cowboy movies as how they impact the American psyche.
Oh. Okay, so McClane has the detonator, so that's kind of a problem for their plans.
Yes.
And the next one will be Ellis, who's this really oily salesman, very arrogantly trying to get McClane to cooperate.
What are you doing?
I'm tired of sitting here waiting to see who gets us killed first, them or your husband.
What are you going to do?
Hey, babe, I negotiate $1 million deals for breakfast. I think I can handle this Euro trash. Hey, frickin' talk, huh?
If you listen to me, he would be neutralized already.
I don't want neutral, I want dead.
Hope I'm not interrupting.
What does he want?
It's not what I want, it's what I can give you. Look, let's be straight, okay? It's obvious you're not some dumb schmuck up here to snatch a few purses, am I right?
You're very perceptive.
I watch 60 Minutes. I say to myself, these guys are professional, they're motivated, they're happening, i.e. they want something, huh? Now, personally, I couldn't care less about your politics. Maybe you're pissed off at the camel jockeys, maybe it's the Hebes, Northern Ireland. It's none of my business. I figure you're here to negotiate. Am I right?
You're amazing. You figured this all out already.
Hey, business is business. You use a gun, I use a fountain pen. What's the difference? Let's put it in my terms. You're here in a hostile takeover. You grab us for some green mail, but you didn't expect some poison pill was going to be running around in the building. Am I right? Hans, Bobby, I'm your white knight.
I must have missed 60 minutes. What are you saying?
The guy upstairs is fucking things up, huh? I can give him to you.
How many kids you got, Al?
Well, as a matter of fact, my wife is working on our first. How about you, cowboy? You got any kids back on your ranch?
Yeah, 2. Sure hope I can see him swinging on a jungle gym with Al Jr. someday.
Well, now that's a date. But you're gonna have to bring the ice cream.
Touching, cowboy, touching. Or should I call you Mr. McLean? Mr. Officer John McLean of the New York Police Department.
Get on the phone to Harry in here. Come on, baby, move.
Got it.
You better get hold of somebody at dispatch.
Sister Teresa called me Mr. McLean in the 3rd grade. My friends call me John. You're neither, shithead.
I have someone who wants to talk to you. A very special friend who was with you at the party tonight.
Hey, John boy. Ellis?
Yeah. Now listen, John. You give me a few minutes to try to talk some sense into you. I know you think you're doing your job, John, and I can appreciate that, but you're just dragging this thing out. Now look, no one gets out of here until these guys can talk to the L.A. police, and that just ain't gonna happen until you stop messing up the works, capiche?
Ellis, what have you told them?
I told them we were old friends and you were my guest at the party.
Ellis, you shouldn't be doing this.
Tell me about it. All right, John, listen. I want you to tell them what the detonators are. They know people are listening. They want the detonators or they're gonna kill me. John, didn't you hear me?
Yeah, I hear you.
Hey, John, I think you could get with the program a little, huh? The police are here now. It's their problem. Now tell these guys what the detonators are so no one else gets hurt. You know, I'm putting my life on the line for you, pal.
Ellis, listen to me very carefully.
John.
Shut up, Ellis. Just shut your mouth. Put Hans back on the line. Hans, this shithead does not know what kind of man you are, but I do. Listen.
Good. Then you'll give us what we want and save your friend's life. You're not part of this equation. It's time you realized that.
Hey, what am I, a method actor, Hans? Babe, put away the gun. This is radio, not television.
Hans, this asshole is not my friend. I just met him tonight. I don't know him. Jesus Christ, Ellis, these people are going to kill you. Tell them you don't know me.
John, how can you say that after all these years, huh? John. John.
Sorry, that was kind of long, but just wanted to show the interaction between Ellis and Hans.
Apparently he improvised the bubby and it surprised Alan Rickman.
Oh, I bet.
And he kind of made a face afterward, like, what did he say?
Oh, that's good. Yeah, 80s hubris. I think he really personified that.
Mm-hmm.
I got distracted by the fact that they brought him a can of Coke and gave him like a third of a can of Coke.
Yeah, I noticed that when I was watching this morning.
Yeah.
Here's a little bit of Coke. You won't need to drink it for long.
They knew exactly how long this was going to go on.
Right.
That's how to the point they have scheduled this.
Mm-hmm.
Don't waste that Coke. Someone else can have it.
And then he knows he's going to get killed, but he still drinks some of the Coke. It's like, yeah.
Oh, I don't think he knew.
Yeah, I think he thought he was going to schmooze his way out of it.
Oh, well, yeah, okay. That makes sense. He doesn't know how ruthless Hans is.
Yeah.
I think he has an understanding of how ruthless people in the business world are, and does not understand that that understanding does not translate to real life scenarios like this. Whereas there's actually a nice juxtaposition when you watch the scene between Hans and Holly and the scene between Hans and Ellis, where there actually seems to be a bit of respect when he's talking to Holly. She understands that this is real and it isn't a business environment with those safety rails. And she's asking for specific things that are just logistics. And he doesn't seem to put on that arrogant, he's still above it all and everything, but he doesn't have the same arrogance that he has here where it feels like an act. It's just, oh, okay, I made you in charge of the hostages. Yeah, we'll take you to the bathroom.
I don't know. Ellis, you have to watch this movie to really see, but he's just making all these little gestures like, oh, I just said something clever, didn't I?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Oh, this will convince him.
This works in all the German business deals I do.
Oh, yeah. Let me just play the rest of this. I'm not sure if there's anything, but here we go.
You hear that? Talk to me. Where are my detonators? Where are they, or shall I shoot another one? Sooner or later, I might get to someone you do care about.
Go fuck yourself, Hans.
I don't know. I guess it's kind of interesting that even the threat of killing more hostages does not get McClane to cooperate.
McClane is faced with a trolley problem.
Oh.
The detonators can do far more damage than one man with a pistol.
True. Okay.
But what we have there is the first crack in Hans's facade. That is the first time we start to see him yell. He's getting upset because things aren't going according to plan. And that's any role where Rickman yells. That is the kind of cadence that his voice takes on. So as we were talking about earlier, when he does certain things, the cadence and the breaking as his voice gets louder is something that occurs in a lot of his villain roles.
Nice. Okay, so McClane still has the detonators, and the police have gotten involved.
Reginald Vell Johnson and the principal from the Breakfast Club. I don't remember what his name is.
Uh-huh.
I did not care for the Breakfast Club. No offense to people who love that movie. I respect you.
It's a little too, to me, I don't know. The types are just so cliche.
Yeah, I didn't love how like everybody was an archetype in that movie, but I think the thing that made me really dislike it is how many TV shows have a Breakfast Club episode, and whatever TV show I'm watching, including ER, weirdly has a Breakfast Club episode. I'll always skip that episode.
Oh, wow. Interesting.
I'll watch it in Community.
I haven't seen Community yet. I would like to watch that show though.
There's like somebody makes a comment about something feeling like the Breakfast Club, and someone just quotes the Breakfast Club, and the response is, okay, that was actually from the Breakfast Club.
Interesting. Okay.
Attention, police. Attention, police.
This is Sergeant Al Power. This is Deputy Chief Dwayne Robinson. Who is this?
This is Hans Gruber. I assume you realize the futility of direct action against me. We have no wish for further loss of life.
Well, what is it you do wish for, Mr. Gruber?
I have comrades in arms around the world languishing in prison. The American State Department enjoys rattling its saber for its own ends. Now I can rattle it for me. The following people are to be released from their captors. In Northern Ireland, the 7 members of the New Provo Front. In Canada, the 5 imprisoned leaders of Liberté de Quebec. In Sri Lanka, the 9 members of the Asian Dawn.
What the fuck?
I read about them in Time magazine. When these revolutionary brothers and sisters are free, the hostages in this building will be taken to the roof, and they will accompany us in helicopters to the Los Angeles International Airport, where they will be given further instructions. You have 2 hours to comply.
So that's kind of part of their plan, is to lay out their demands, quote unquote.
It is kind of funny how he takes a moment to tell his fellow thief, like, oh, I read about them in Time magazine. Just, to hammer home the point that he is bullshitting the cops right now.
And it's also not quite the same way that he talked about reading about the company in Forbes earlier. This is just a quick, I read about it in Time.
Right.
Seems like he's done a lot of research.
That's why he doesn't have to carry any of the bags.
Yeah.
Yeah, true.
He's done all the research.
Yeah. Okay.
Danny, did you get all that? Let's go. We got to make some calls.
Do you think they'll even try to do it?
Who cares? Theo, are we on schedule?
One more to go, then it's up to you. And you better be right, because it looks like this last one's gonna take a miracle.
It's Christmas, Theo. It's the time of miracles, so be of good cheer and call me when you hit the last lock. Carl, hunt that little shit down and get those detonators.
Fritz is checking explosives.
I'll check the explosives. You just get the detonators.
I couldn't quite make out what Alexander Goodenough was saying there.
Fritz is checking the explosives.
Oh, I meant before that. It was more from the last clip that it was like he was asking about those revolutionaries being released or something like that. And Hans is like, who cares? The whole thing was just performative.
Yeah.
Yeah, do you think they're really going to do that? It's like, I gave them an impossible laundry list.
Right.
No.
Right.
They're not supposed to.
It's all about buying time.
Yeah. Interesting. Okay.
No, darling. Asian Dawn. Dawn. D-A-W-N.
Sir?
Yeah.
Sir, the FBI is here.
Oh, the FBI is here now?
Yes, sir, right over there.
Hold this.
You want a breath, man?
Yeah, okay.
Hey, how you doing, man?
I'm Agent Johnson. This is Special Agent Johnson.
Oh, how you doing?
No relation.
I'm Dwayne Robinson, LAPD. I'm in charge here.
Not anymore.
So basically at this point, the FBI gets involved and they're going to double cross the terrorists. So they think that instead of sending transport helicopters, they'll send military ones to shoot the bad guys. And it's okay if a few of the good guys get shot too. It's
Right,
just,
like 25% of them. That's acceptable.
Yeah. Now, here's the scene where McLean and Gruber meet. Here, Hans is examining the wiring for the bombs on the top floor.
Hi there. How you doing?
Oh, please, God, no, you're one of them, aren't you? You're one of them. No, don't kill me, please, no, please. Don't kill me, please, please.
Whoa, relax. Relax, I'm not gonna hurt you. I'm not gonna hurt you! The fuck are you doing up here? What were you looking for?
I managed to get out of there, well, I was just trying to get up on the roof and see if I could signal for help, It's just through here. Why don't you come in and help?
Oh,
we go there.
Forget the roof.
Come on.
I said forget the roof. They got people all over. Come on, you want to stay alive? You stay with me.
This is the Bill Clay moment.
Yeah.
Wait a minute. Did I should have let that keep. He didn't actually do that part yet.
No, not quite yet.
Okay. Here.
Go for it.
Yeah.
I do have something from that first part. That little jump down, because this was the first scene that Rickman shot for the film. That little jump down that he does was apparently the most dangerous thing he did in the film, despite how it ends. He damaged the cartilage in his knee when he did that little jump. So he filmed a number of the things after this, standing with all of his weight on one leg.
Yeah. Because he was not supposed to put weight on it after that. I think, like, a scene coming up, he's actually, like, standing on one leg and wearing a leg brace or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, I hadn't noticed that.
I think they did a good job of hiding it.
And because he's leaning so frequently, it adds to the casual I'm in charge here air. One wouldn't guess it's because I jumped down a foot.
The hazards of filmmaking.
Well, and the hazards of being on a movie set versus a stage, I don't know. I haven't watched a lot of theater, but I can imagine there isn't that much opportunity to jump from that height.
And not even just a movie set, an active construction site.
Right.
Oh, true. Okay, let's continue on.
You smoke?
Yeah. Thanks. You don't work for Nakatomi. And if you're not one of them...
I'm a cop from New York.
New York?
Yeah. Got invited to the Christmas party by mistake. Who knew? Yeah. It's better than being caught with your pants down, huh? I'm John McClane. You're,
Clay. Bill Clay.
Know how to use a handgun, Bill?
I spent a weekend at a combat ranch. You know that game with the guns that shoot red paint? Probably seems kind of stupid to you.
Well, time for the real thing, Bill. All you gotta do is pull the trigger. Come on.
Dreiunddreißigster Stockwerk. Kommt. Sofort. Put down the gun. And give me my detonators.
Well, well, well. Hans.
Put it down now.
It's pretty tricky with that accent. You gotta be on fucking TV with that accent. But what do you want with the detonators, Hans? I already used all the explosives. Or did I?
I'm going to count to 3.
Yeah. Like you did with Takagi. Oops. No bullets. You think I'm fucking stupid, Hans?
You're saying?
So apparently, Alan Rickman held his cigarette the European way, and that was supposed to be a clue that you might think that John McClane picks up on.
Oh.
Because he's holding it, like, with his forefinger and his thumb, rather than, like, I guess Americans hold a cigarette between their pointer and middle finger.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I didn't pick up on that, but interesting.
But that's also how some Americans who don't regularly smoke. And it feels a bit like that's covering for cutting the watch scene.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess I don't know how I would hold a cigarette because I've never smoked before. If somebody gave me one, I might hold it that way.
Yeah, actually, I mean, I smoked for years and years, and I did it both ways, especially like when you're outside, you hold it between your thumb and forefinger so the rest of your hand will protect it from the wind or the elements.
That makes sense.
So there's a couple of theories about how this meeting between Hans and McClane came to be. One is that they heard Alan Rickman go through a whole bunch of accents and thought, oh, that's a good way for them to meet. The writer wanted them to meet so they could fall in hate with each other.
Yeah.
D'Souza was so eager to have them do that he used a typewriter, which he was not fond of, to quickly get those pages out to get them approved before Rickman came to set for his first shoot.
Now, the way Rickman put it was that, yeah, when he, suggested that Hans wear a suit, was that, oh, yeah, then they can meet together. And then he went away for 2 weeks, and when he came back, the scene was written.
Oh, wow.
So it's probably some combination of that. Oh, and he was like, they asked, can you do an American accent at that point? But yeah, I thought it was interesting. The first time I watched it, it's like, oh man, he's really a coward, isn't he? But that was all a performance.
Yeah, an impromptu performance.
Yeah.
And a very interesting American accent.
Yeah.
The director, Silver, was not 100% sold on that American accent being convincing.
But I think that's okay because, like, clearly John McClane catches on that that's not like a rando, that he must be involved with the. So I think the fact that his accent isn't, great it works for the story.
Especially if he's so confident as to do it in a life or death moment. It tells you a lot about the character that he believes it's quite good.
Right, exactly.
There's also, I think you covered it in an earlier episode of the podcast, that Alan Rickman has played the voice of God. He has a very recognizable voice. It doesn't matter what accent you put on that.
Right.
Like, you've heard Hans speak. You're going to know. How did his vocal coach in school put it? It sounds like you're speaking out the end of a drain pipe. Any accent's going to sound like that.
It's a very distinctive voice.
Yeah.
Okay, then when the other guys, the terrorists or whatever you want to call them, come up with their machine guns, McClane drops the bag with the detonators. And that's how they continue on to get those put together at a later date. But in the meantime, the vault is almost open. And then the last thing is the time lock. They say if the power gets cut off, it automatically opens. I don't know how convincing that is, but.
And the feds happen to tell the city to turn the power off.
Mm-hmm.
There's a guy in a manhole and they order him to get the power off for the whole block.
Yeah.
They set that up in the earlier news clip, and the news, in particular, the news is being used as an unreliable narrator, but they're interviewing the person who wrote the book on terrorist hostage situations. And I believe Hans mentions that they're doing it by the book. They are actually using the playbook for what to expect. They planned for it. So, of course, they said to turn off the power. This only works if they turn off the power, and they planned around that, which, why would you publish your playbook? Whatever.
True.
My issues are not with the way that the thieves have planned what they're doing. My issues are with publication standards.
Oh, yes. I'll tell you, that's one of the things I'm not a fan of action movies is there's often, and this one is actually pretty good about you not having to suspend your disbelief that often. But I don't know, I thought the thing about the time lock was a bit convenient.
Yeah, but I mean, I guess that's why they have 6 safeguard locks before the last lock, that they don't expect anybody to be able to get through those.
Oh, right.
The size of the drill he brought, you're normally going to get caught on the elevator with that.
Yeah.
So this next clip, so the power's off and the vault is opening.
It's gonna go. It's gonna go!
So that was just the vault opening, and they light it so that Hans and his cohort, they're lit and shot very heroically.
Which I believe they had to use a specific type of film to achieve. which wasn't, it was kind of being phased out at the time.
Oh, interesting.
It was used earlier in the Bill Clay scene as well.
Is that the anamorphic cameras? I read something about like they insisted on using that for some parts of the movie.
Oh, okay. And do you know what an anamorphic is?
I have no idea. But I read about it, and I read that it was like a special thing and that it was kind of becoming obsolete. Anamorphic lens, that's what it is.
They compress the image to an artificial.
Yeah. Sorry.
Oh, that's cool.
In that shot, it's not just the heroic lens that they're using, they're also using that heroic score.
Yes.
It's the score itself is telling us that we're allowed as the audience to be happy that they won. They got what they wanted. We've been low-key rooting for them. We know more about them, and they are more competent than their legal adversaries, John McClane aside.
And you know, if they didn't plan on killing everybody in the building, I would be like, yeah, take that money.
At this point, we don't necessarily know.
We don't know that, right?
Yeah.
That they planned it that way. Oh, the other thing I wanted to talk about the score a little bit, because the Ode to Joy is from Beethoven's Ninth Symphony, and they weave it throughout the score. Hans is singing it in the elevator. You can just hear little grace notes from it throughout the film.
Well, what are we gonna do now? Arrest them for not paying their electric bill?
We've shut them down. We let them sweat for a while, then we give them helicopters.
Right up the ass.
I wish to talk to the FBI.
This is Special Agent Johnson of the FBI. The State Department has arranged for the return of your comrades. Helicopters are en route, as you requested.
I hear you. We'll be ready.
Time he figures out what hit him, they'll be in a body bag.
When they touch down, we'll blow the roof. They'll spend a month sifting through the rubble, and by the time they figure out what went wrong, we'll be sitting on a beach, earning 20%.
So Hans and the FBI are planning to double-cross each other.
Yep.
Which is really interesting.
And neither of them will succeed.
And you had just mentioned that it'd be easier to root for our protagonists, essentially, the terrorists, if they hadn't been planning to kill all the hostages. But the FBI is also okay with killing the hostages.
Right.
So we kind of have to accept that our sympathy for our hero solely lies with the person who's trying to prevent the most loss of life, and that is McClane.
Yeah.
Right. I'll just mention at this point, McClane is shirtless, and he's pretty buff, but I'll tell you, if he was in the movies now, he would be about twice as buff.
That's true. It's funny. I was watching the movie like this morning with my partner, and we were counting things. I was counting like topless scenes.
Oh.
And when that came up, that was number 3.
Oh.
His role was originally offered to Arnold Schwarzenegger, who turned it down. So there was this image that he was going to be buff, and when they went, oh, wait, no, he's an everyman. He's Bruce Willis. If it had been super buff, unrelatable action hero guy, we wouldn't have gotten Hans.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's true.
Mm-hmm.
There was a long line of people that were considered for John McClane, like a surprising amount of people.
Really?
Before they eventually settled on guy known for doing TV comedy.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
Yeah, I used to watch Moonlighting back in the 80s.
He was working on that while doing this movie, and I think that they tried to give some of the other characters bigger roles so that he could have a little bit of, time eased off of him, because he was wrapping up filming on that and doing this at the same time.
Yeah, that must have been pretty exhausting.
Oh yeah. On the same day, like doing days on TV and nights on a movie. I can't even imagine.
Mm-hmm. In a very physical role, too.
Right.
Okay, our next clip. So he's got the bearer bonds, which is what they were after. And now he gets them ready to go.
Choppers are coming. Okay. Time to gather your flock, Miss Gennaro.
You know, your mom and dad are very important people. They're very brave people. So is there something you'd like to say to them if they're watching?
Come home.
Mrs. McLean. Honors to make your acquaintance.
On your feet, everyone, to the roof. Lock them up there and come right back.
So this part, he had a similar reaction earlier when he was demanding the detonators, but this is where he really starts to lose that fluid elegance that he's been defined by for so much of the earlier portion of the film. And it really makes sense. Once they got into the vault, his role as protagonist is over. So from here on out, he is the villain and he's decompensating.
So good.
Yeah, very true.
A little farther on here is another little scene.
Yeah. A little bonus for us. Please, sit down. Sit down.
Hey!
A policeman's wife might come in handy. McLean, I have some news for you. McLean.
Arm. The truck?
Truck.
After all your posturing, all your little speeches, you're nothing but a common thief.
I am an exceptional thief, Mrs. McLean, and since I'm moving up to kidnapping, you should be more polite.
So basically, they've moved the hostages up to the roof, except for Mrs. McLean, Holly. Hans takes her to the vault, and that's where she gets mouthy, and he gets up in her face and says, "Since I'm moving up to kidnapping, you should be more polite."
Yeah.
And the sudden physical response there and the shoving her down came as the result of being instructed by Silver to be more aggressive towards her in this scene as he's becoming more of the villain. And that the response he had was just to being called common. Nothing else so far has made him so egregiously angered as being called common.
Oh, so good.
And in the interest of this being a podcast about Snape, that action, that like feral, animalistic, desperate action of him throwing himself bodily at her when insulted, it's the kind of thing you see in a lot of his like 80s and 90s work.
Yes.
Robin Hood, Les Liaisons had similar things to that. And with some of the moments where Snape just snaps in the books, I was kind of disappointed with how reserved he stayed.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's the sort of thing he does in moments of desperation.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, we were robbed of feral Snape.
Absolutely.
Completely unrelated to Hans, but just want to take a second to really appreciate Alexander Godunov's completely controlled kicks. That man is letting the ballet show.
I was so impressed with his kicks in this scene. I was like, wow.
Oh, yeah.
If you have a ballet dancer, you're going to let them use their legs.
I didn't know he was a ballet dancer. I was just sitting there watching it, amazed by these high kicks.
Yes, interesting. He was a ballet dancer from Soviet Russia, and he defected.
1979.
Thought he must be like martial artist or something, but ballet also makes sense.
Yeah, they do have a good fight interspersed with these other scenes where they just beat the heck out of each other.
And the fight that they're having is a personal one. They begin it by saying, this is not professional, this is personal. And the insult that Hans receives from Holly is also personal.
That's true. So everything is getting more close to their real selves.
Yeah, it stopped being so professional. Now the stakes are higher and more individualized.
And when it was all professional, it was far more put together.
Yeah.
They had everything planned out.
That's true. Things have gotten kind of messed up with the help of John McClane. So McClane finally wins the battle with Carl. Of course, he's a real mess by now. He's bloody and The movie is starting to culminate. Oh, yes, at this point, I haven't included any clips, but they move the hostages up to the roof, and you can hear the helicopters. They're on their way to the building. And then McClane figures out what's happening. And so he goes up on the roof and tells everybody to go back downstairs. Of course, they don't listen, so he has to start shooting off his machine gun. I'm not doing a great job of describing the action here, but it's very good. And then, okay, everybody gets downstairs and he decides that he's going to sort of rappel off the roof by using the fire hose.
Because the people in the helicopters, assuming he's one of the terrorists, are shooting at him actively in that moment.
Yeah.
So he's got to find a way off that roof quickly.
Yeah.
And it's another instance of we have the set, what is on the set. And so that stunt kind of came around from what can we use that's already here? What would be cool? So it's a graduated version of a chicken sandwich.
That's neat. Yeah. So anyway, he rappels off the roof and it all blows up and the helicopters are there. They're, ready to shoot the bad guys and they get blown up with the explosion of the roof. Okay, so yeah, there's lots of, I don't know, they filmed the explosion very well, actually used the model of the building. And I guess when Bruce Willis rappels off they use a parking garage.
Oh, wow.
It's only like 2 stories rather than 30 some.
How cool, though.
Yeah, really, so effective. Okay. So comes down to their final showdown. Do we need to talk about the van, do you think?
The miraculously appearing van?
Yeah.
Yes. It must be a tiny one to fit in the semi.
Yeah, because that truck's not that big.
No.
More importantly, it was invisible when they walked out.
Right, because we saw the inside of the truck, so where was that?
Yeah. Who was it? Joel Silver said, "Oh, I did that with Knight Rider."
Yeah.
I think it was Joel Silver.
I definitely remember one of the key production people saying that they kind of pulled this from something else, so they knew it fit, but you couldn't close the door, I think was the thing.
Oh. So they've gotten stymied at every turn, it seems. But they're just about to. At this point, Hans doesn't realize their escape has been kind of wrecked.
On the subject of their escape, the ambulance that they were planning to escape in.
Mm-hmm.
This is smaller than a modern ambulance, which is the last one I've been in. How were the rest of the people leaving? I don't know if their entire crew would have fit in this one vehicle.
Oh, yeah, that's true.
It would have been standing room only.
Standing room only with all of the things that they were bringing because they have everything they pulled from the vault.
Oh, yeah.
And especially when there were like 12 of them to start with, are they just like really cramming in there?
They came in 2 vehicles.
Right.
Yeah.
It's the 80s. They didn't have Uber. They couldn't call.
It's going to be a real clown car situation.
Yeah. Besides, the truck has that van in there as well.
Yeah.
Supposedly.
I would assume they're leaving the truck. The truck would be noticeable when you go to leave. So everybody would have been piling into the ambulance, emergency vehicle. No one's going to question it. You're surrounded by them. But if anybody opens the door and goes, "Who are these 8 male models?" then they're going to have questions.
Who are these 8 beautiful men?
One of them looks a lot like the guy who's been on the news all night.
Okay, so McClane makes his way to the vault to confront Hans.
Allez vite!
J'y vais!
Hans!
Jesus.
Hi, honey.
So that's what this is all about? Fucking robbery?
Put down the gun.
Why'd you have to nuke the whole building, Hans?
Well, when you steal $600, you can't just disappear. When you steal 600 million, they will find you unless they think you're already dead. Put down the gun.
Mine, this is mine.
You got me.
Still the cowboy. Mr. McLean, Americans, all alike. Well, this time John Wayne does not walk off into the sunset with Grace Kelly.
It's Gary Cooper, asshole.
Enough jokes.
You made a pretty good cowboy yourself, Hans.
Oh, yes. What was it you said to me before? Yippee-ki-yay, motherfucker.
Happy trails, Hans.
That's not a hostage.
So, to describe the action, they meet and McLean puts down his gun, but he has a spare handgun taped to his sweaty back.
That's a good point. He is really sweaty. I wonder how that stuck so well.
Yeah.
I would buy stock in that tape.
Yes.
Because it's just like a postage tape that he sees on like a little cart outside the room.
Mm-hmm.
Decorative postage tape.
Decorative Christmas postage tape, yes.
Oh, true.
Because Die Hard is a Christmas movie, it is integral to the plot.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And he only has 2 bullets in this scene.
Mm-hmm.
And they're in that handgun.
Yeah, he shoots Hans and then he shoots the other bad guy, who's a bad guy now, not a protagonist. And then Hans hits the glass breaks and he falls, but he's hung on to Holly's hand.
By her Rolex mentioned by Ellis at the beginning of the movie.
Oh, wow. Oh, that's cool. She lost her Rolex.
Watches were important. I don't know why they cut them.
Yeah, and in the book, actually, because he's an older guy, it's his daughter.
Oh.
She's got the watch, and Hans is, although I think his name is Tony in the book. Either way, he's hanging on by her watch, and they both die in the book.
Yeah, I can see why that would be. How could her fall have been stopped?
Right. But he manages to unclasp the watch, because I don't remember if it was Joel Silver or the director, whose name I can't think of.
John McTiernan.
Yeah, that's right. Or one of the writers, but one of them was saying that they came up with the idea to make it his wife and to make them having this disagreement because he had a fight with his wife, and then a refrigerator box came off the back of the truck in front of him while he was driving and hit his car. And it just so happened to be an empty box, but he thought in that moment, if I had died right now, I wouldn't be able to apologize to my wife. So that's like a driving motivation for John McClane to not die in this movie.
Oh, neat.
That happened to me once, actually. An appliance came off the back of a truck and hit my car. It was very scary.
Oh, my goodness.
So I definitely sympathize. Yikes.
Near-death situations, yes.
Yeah.
Quick, you should channel that experience into the next Diehard.
Clearly.
Yeah. Oh, we have to talk about the reaction shot when Hans drops to his death.
Yes.
Yes, so Alan Rickman was dropped 3 stories on blue screen. Didn't used to be green screen back then. They were going to drop him on the count of 3, but they just did it on 1, so he wasn't ready.
You could see it in his face.
Yeah, that reaction is priceless.
It's a really iconic scene of the movie, too.
It is, yeah.
I don't recall if it was the producer, the director, or the writer described it as the look of gravity failing you, that you can't act. And it had to be the last shot he filmed in the film, because if you mess this up, you can't film anymore.
Right.
Oh, true.
That's true. He already hurt his knee.
Yeah. So they did it twice, and they used the first one, which I'm sure made him feel like the second one was totally worthwhile.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Second one was just for kicks.
Oh, I like doing that. Let's do it again.
Apparently, in an interview, again, with one of the show creators whose name I can't remember, they mentioned that you actually have to go to specific stunt people, or that it takes a lot of convincing to get someone to fall backwards. It goes against everything in your nature to let the fall take you.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it's really scary.
Yeah, so they lucked out that he was willing to do it himself.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Good sport.
Probably didn't get paid extra for it.
Well, it was his first film. They're barely getting paid extra anyway.
True.
And Bruce Willis made $5 million in this role, which is a lot for that time, right? Like, specifically approved of by Rupert Murdoch.
Yeah. Not as much as if it had been like Rambo or Arnold Schwarzenegger.
For sure, yeah.
He probably was the cheap option.
Yeah. Although, speaking of like a lot for back then, I looked it up and like $600 million is like $1 billion now. So they would be set.
Is that how much it made?
Oh, no, the bonds that they were trying to steal.
Oh, right.
Were 600 million.
Yeah. That would have put him in
on the beach making 20%, as he said.
Yeah.
Yeah, the film made at least 140 million.
Okay.
Wow.
So it made less than they stole.
That's a good point.
It would have been more cost effective for them to run this as a real heist.
Yeah. And this spawned a number of sequels, like 3, is that right?
Maybe even 4.
Oh, more than 3.
Okay.
And now, of course, Bruce Willis has frontotemporal dementia. Is that what it's called?
I think so.
That's too bad.
Yeah, it is sad to think that what he's going through right now.
Yeah. Okay, let's see. I think this should show how many sequels.
There's 5 total Die Hard films.
5 total, okay.
Oh, okay.
Wow.
Yeah.
In addition to some comics and novels.
I've only actually seen the first one.
Yeah, me too. Did you watch it for Alan Rickman or?
No, I just watched it because it was, at first, it was the funny thing to do to watch it on Christmas, but I just genuinely really liked it. I think, we're talking about it not being like a typical action movie. I think it's a special movie all around.
Yeah.
Because I don't know, I'm not a big movie person, but this is up there for me. One of my favorites.
Well, I certainly have more of appreciation for it, having watched it several times now. Oh, we have to talk about the debate of whether it's a Christmas movie or not.
It is integral to the plot.
Yes, it is.
It is.
It's important that it's a Christmas movie. The first song that you hear is a Christmas song.
Yes.
There is no reason for all of these people to be there and not on work hours if it's not a holiday party. And there aren't many holidays that companies go all out catering after hours for.
Exactly.
This won't take place on Arbor Day.
No, and you have all the trappings of Christmas. There's a big Christmas tree that falls. There's the tape that he uses to tape the gun. He says, now I've got a machine gun, ho, ho, ho. You can't escape the Christmas in this movie.
Oh, yeah, I agree.
And then they released it in July.
Yeah, that's true. It's Christmas in July.
Well, about that time, you want something cool.
Yeah.
Although this wasn't in, say, Vancouver or someplace that would have been snowy.
That's true. That's true. It's Los Angeles, so it's going to be hot anyway.
Consider that it is kind of snowing at the end, in that there is paper falling from the building as it plays Christmas music.
There you go.
Oh, so true.
There you go. And even like there's even a line, I didn't know they celebrated Christmas in Japan. So yeah, you can't get away from the Christmas in this movie.
So if you're a Rick Maniac, it's this one and Love Actually.
Oh yeah, Love Actually is also a Christmas movie.
It makes me so sad, though. I don't know. Just because he's cheating on his wife.
Yeah, that's really not like I don't really care for Love Actually very much. If I'm going to watch an Alan Rickman Christmas movie, it's going to be Die Hard. It's just a way. The thing about like Die Hard is that there's never a moment where I'm not having fun.
Right.
Everybody's fun to watch. Even the characters that you're not supposed to like the chief of police, Dwayne, or the FBI. It's always a good time. Like everybody's a little bit silly, but the stakes are still high. It's just a good time.
And then in Love Actually, the stakes are high and no one's a bit silly.
No one's a bit silly. Everybody is dead serious.
With the exception of Rowan Atkinson.
Oh, yeah, that's true. Well, and I think what's his name from The Hobbit and the woman from Gavin and Stacey, they're a little silly.
Martin Freeman. Yeah.
Yes, that's right.
But they're at work.
That's true. That's true. They're at work.
Stand-ins for pornos. That's such an interesting concept.
I was just happy that somebody from Gavin and Stacey was in it I recognized.
Oh.
Because I love that show.
I haven't seen it.
Well, I'll tell you, if you ever watch it, I read the Harry Potter books long before ever seeing the movies, and my headcanon for Snape's voice was in Gavin and Stacey. He was Stacey's uncle. I'm trying to remember the actor's name. Rob Brydon, was that it?
Yeah. Which voice of Rob Brydon's?
In that show, in Gavin and Stacey, that is how I imagined Snape talking.
The joke there is that Rob Brydon is an impressionist and does a lot of voices for people unfamiliar with Rob Brydon.
He does some stand-up comedian stuff. One of his bits is like a tiny man in a box, for instance.
Oh.
It's very funny.
I'm going to have to check that out.
Oh, yeah. It's a short show. I recommend it. It's a lot of fun.
Yes, this film launched Alan's film career.
Yeah, it was his first film. And he was how old when? I think he was in his early 40s.
42.
42. So his first on-screen movie role at 42. Good for him. Because he had a really full career. I mean, I think people consider that like a late start, but it didn't seem to matter.
Yeah, he had a lot of interesting roles.
He's like most of the time he is really engaging and fun to watch. It is just depressing in Love Actually. It's like he's cheating on his wife. That's really sad.
Yeah.
And he doesn't get the chance to, and I mean this in a good way, right? He doesn't get the chance to ham it up in that role.
True.
Because he's so expressive in most of his other roles.
Mm-hmm.
You can't really be silly and fun if you're cheating on your wife and that's your main storyline.
Mm-hmm. Even with Rowan Atkinson.
Yeah.
I'm thinking about Love Actually now, and I think he keeps his hands in his pockets more in that role than he does in others, because as he did in the boardroom in Die Hard, as we just saw, he touches things. He is a grabber of the scenery. He is grounding himself in his surroundings, and I think part of the thing in that character is that he's kind of shoulders up, he's withdrawn.
Yeah, it almost kind of makes me think that his skills as an actor were kind of wasted on that movie. Not to hate on Love Actually. I'm sorry to people who like that movie.
I did a thing where I cut out Karen and Harry's story from Love Actually so I can watch it start to finish without all of the parts in between. And it is heartbreaking without the distractions of the other stories.
Oh, wow.
Because you don't get any of the lighthearted things going well for other people to
Yeah.
distract you.
Mm-hmm.
And he's the only reason I would say he's not wasted in that role is that you don't come out hating him entirely.
Mm.
Another person in that role would not necessarily be able to keep some level of sympathy from the audience.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
But because of the way he interacts with Emma Thompson, you want what's best for her, and she is still with him. So
Yeah.
you accept that.
Right, right.
Anyway, he was so iconic in this role. You could consider him the perfect villain.
He has made many lists of that.
Well, and I haven't seen the other Die Hard movies, but I think it's the third one. They get Jeremy Lyons to play like I think his Hans Gruber's brother or some other relative. And it almost feels like they're trying to capture, the energy that Alan Rickman brought, because I do feel like he's got like a similar kind of like vibe to him.
Oh, yeah, Jeremy Irons was Scar.
Irons. I don't know. I said Lions because he was in Lion King.
Because
I'm
he was
sorry.
Scar.
Yeah. Yes.
Side note on that, Alan Rickman played a very similar role to Scar, but like if Scar were taken down 60% in his epicness, when he played Joe the Fish, who has a whole song number very similar to Be Prepared if you bought Be Prepared store brand.
And what was that in?
Help, I'm a Fish.
Help, I'm a Fish. Okay. I'll have to look that up.
3 children get turned into fish because someone from Monty Python makes a potion. I'm not going to describe this very well, but then a fish also consumes this fish intelligence potion and tries to take over the sea with his army of intelligent fish, but not as intelligent as him.
And that was Alan Rickman.
That was Alan Rickman.
That's incredible.
He has a song called Intelligence.
Oh, he sings?
One of his roles I didn't know about.
He sings in it, huh?
Yep. It's one of several films where he sings.
Nice.
It has come up at the Rickmaniac review server a couple of times when I am in the mood.
That's fantastic, because I don't think I ever heard him sing.
Sweeney Todd.
Oh, I haven't seen it.
Sweeney Todd, Truly Madly Deeply.
Yes, that one, which is a wonderful movie too, yeah.
I guess I'll have to see Sweeney Todd because, I mean, if you're going to keep doing a Rickman episode every once in a while, I should expand because I've seen the Robin Hood movie that he was in. I've seen, several, but there are several I haven't seen.
Yeah, he was so good in Sweeney Todd. I'll tell you though, I love the 1981 television version so much though, with Elsa Lanchester. No, what's her name? The Murder, She Wrote gal.
Angela Lansbury.
Angela Lansbury.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That sounds like a interesting.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it's like 3 hours long. It's
the Tim Burton version of Sweeney Todd does cut a fair amount.
Which is, they can't do a 3-hour film.
I mean, I'd watch a 3 hour.
I would have watched it, yeah.
Yeah, and actually I think that version doesn't have all the songs on it either.
Wow.
Because I have the
1982, you said?
Yeah.
Okay, it's 2 hours, 20 minutes, so it must have cut some things.
Felt like 3 hours. Yeah, I don't know. I get so involved in it. It just, but yeah, the Broadway or the West End, what do they call that? It's like a soundtrack, I guess, but for theater.
Original cast recording.
Yes, the cast recording. And there are more songs even on that one.
Wow.
Oh, what's the character that he plays in that? Oh, Judge Turpin. He has a song where he's trying to get the idea of Joanna out of his mind, but in the end, he totally justifies it. Anyway, I love Sweeney Todd.
Yeah, for some reason, I've just never seen it. It's not that I don't like musicals. I definitely do.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just always working. That's the problem. I need to make more time for that kind of thing.
When I was in high school, the ads would be in the newspaper. So it must have come through in a traveling version. That's probably why I'm so attached to it.
If you do ever happen to talk about Tim Burton's Sweeney Todd in the future, I have very strong feelings about the fact that they recorded and then cut a part for Christopher Lee.
Oh, no.
Oh, you're kidding. Oh, no.
And Anthony Stewart Head.
Oh.
How could they
cut?
cut?
He sings too. He sings so well.
Yeah. Yeah.
How could they cut them?
I think I personally offended Tim Burton in some way.
I
It's
guess
the only
so.
theory I have.
Oh.
No, I don't understand those choices.
There must be a director's cut somewhere.
Yeah.
I'm hoping that some anniversary they're going to put out more of it.
Yeah.
Like they recorded the songs, but not the visuals, and that's fine. I'll take just this. Like I have Christopher Lee's metal albums. I'll take it.
All right.
I think Christopher Lee, sorry, totally off topic. I think Christopher Lee is like the most prolific dyer in movies. Like he died in like 70 roles or something like that.
Oh, wow. Wow, he's almost as prolific as John Carradine was.
Did he die in a lot of stuff?
Christopher Lee has, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, John Carradine is the father of Keith Carradine, who you're probably thinking of.
Oh, okay, okay.
He may have passed away too.
Yeah, looks like he did in the 80s. Wow.
Okay, we've gone way off topic. So.
Way off.
Sorry.
Sorry, everybody.
But these are just some ideas of future Alan Rickman films that we could possibly talk about.
Yeah, there's a lot to work with, so I believe we'll keep doing this.
Yeah.
Yeah. Happy birthday, Alan Rickman. Wish you were here.
Yep.
Weiss, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
You have so much expertise. It's awesome. And Masao, thank you.
Thanks for having me as always.
Yeah, and you were very knowledgeable too.
I studied up, to be fair, before.
Okay. I tried to, but then I got involved in picking up clips and all that.
I mean, you did the heavy lifting.
Oh. Yeah, so everybody have a good one. Keep watching Alan Rickman.
Yep.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.
I hope you enjoyed our Diehard discussion. We had a great time chatting about it. We have a short survey on Spotify about what movie to talk about next year. Please take it and let us know what you think. While you're at it, please leave us a comment as well. Check out our additional reading page at snapechatpodcast.com for links to stories and more. And here we must say goodbye. We wish we didn't have to, but it hasn't escaped our notice that life isn't fair. Like us on Facebook, follow us on Tumblr and Blue Sky, or leave a comment on our website at snapechatpodcast.com or on Spotify. We'd really love to hear from you. Many thanks to Nix for continuing work on our website. Be sure to check out Care Magical Shippers podcast and alwayssnape.com. Thanks for listening. Until next time, stay snarky.